Welcome to the Humans of IP podcast, where we go beyond the titles to explore the personal stories of the individuals who are shaping the IP world. I'm Anant Kataria, and today I am thrilled to have with me as our guest Mark Vallone, Chief Patent Counsel for Americas at IBM. He's been at IBM for several years, 14 plus years, and has played key roles during his stay at IBM as IP Law Senior Counsel for IBM Cloud and IP Law Counsel for IBM Watson. He's been instrumental in shaping the patent strategy and IP transactions in fast evolving technology landscape. Now, in addition to his role at IBM, he's also a board member at the Intellectual Property Owners Association, IPO, where he is guiding the broader IP community on the emerging issues around the IP ecosystem. He's known for his thoughts on issues like AI and IP, and he has shared his insights on various platforms, including AIPLA, IPO, and various other IP podcasts too. Today, though, we are stepping back from the impressive career highlights, and we are going to discover the personal journey behind the professional success. Mark, it is an honor to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Anant. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Awesome. Let's dive into your story. My first question is, it relates to your professional background broadly. Could you briefly tell us about your current role and what you enjoy the most about it?
Sure. So as you mentioned in the introduction, I'm Chief Patent Counsel for Americas for IBM. With that role, I'm responsible for pretty much the soup to nuts patent operations for IBM in North and South America, which is predominantly US based, but we certainly patent in other jurisdictions in North and South America. So anything from the front end where we're determining what inventions that we want to pursue patents for, to preparation, prosecution, maintenance, pre-litigation matters with patent assertions. As you mentioned, I'm also a board member at IPO, so I'm involved in policy issues, whether that's through IPO or other industry organizations, responding to Federal Register notices from the U.S. patent offices. We had quite a few of those this year. And also, making sure I'm guiding my team on other matters as well. So we like to give our folks a broad experience, make them better IP practitioners, while at the same time supporting the business as we need to with matters beyond patenting. So it's quite a broad role, but I really do enjoy it. It's a challenge. Every day is a challenge, but my first career was as an engineer. So I'm sort of a trained problem solver, and I really enjoy that aspect of my role. Every day is different. Every day brings something new, and so I wake up every day ready to be excited about tackling the challenges of that particular day. So that's what I enjoy about it. It's a very dynamic, fast-paced environment, and just enjoy it tremendously.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. So on professional side, your plate is so full. It has so many things. But we're going to keep stepping back as we talk on focusing more on the personal aspect. But a quick question, a related question: what initially drew you to the field of intellectual property, and was there a particular influence that made you think, "Oh, this is good. This is what I want to do"?
Yeah, it's a great question. Later in my high school days, I took my first computer science classes and really enjoyed it. And I remember having some classmates that were talking about patent law or an intellectual property law as a possible career path. And I always thought that was interesting because I was sort of between going into law and going into engineering without realizing you can sort of do both. But I really wanted to try my hat at engineering first, and I did. And I came into IBM after graduating from undergraduate school, and just the patent culture at IBM was just tremendous. And when you're working with engineers and they're all talking about the patents that they have or the inventions that they're working on at that time, one, it feels like a bit of peer pressure, but two, you really want to do it on your own. You really want to take part in that because you're just learning with this tremendously talented group. So I remember filing my first invention disclosure, which was accepted and pursued for patenting, and getting to sit down with a patent attorney and having him interview me and help me develop the invention, the process was just fascinating to me. And it sort of took off from there. But that was a real pivotal moment. And it was just great being a part of that culture at IBM from the engineer side. And now in this role, I see it from the legal side too. So it's really, really great.
You are inventor on several patents. I think 10 plus patents, I believe. I might be wrong. Maybe
That's generous. I have one. But so I have one, and then I think a continuation was filed, but didn't issue. And it's interesting because after you sort of catch the fever, you want to do more. And I sort of learned the hard way about bar dates. And so we went back and tried to file disclosures for things that actually went into product only to realize they were time barred. So had my first lesson about patent law before I became an attorney on that. But I do have one, and it's I have it shellacked on a plaque, and it's great. Proud to have that, and then to be on the other side of that. So.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. My next question is probably related, but this is again I think the last professional question. Then we are getting back into your life, your beyond the profession. So, what's one professional accomplishment that you are particularly proud of?
I think if you had asked me even not so long ago if I would be here in this role today or talking to you, I never would have imagined it, Anant. IBM is full of just tremendous talent, and to even be considered for the role I'm in today was just a tremendous honor to me, and it's humbling. And so, the day I was asked to take on this role, was definitely one of the happiest professional accomplishments that I could have imagined. Didn't seem like that this was the type of thing. If you had asked me long ago that this was in my future, I never would have guessed it. So, really happy to be where I am, and proud to be here. Honestly, so
this is really interesting for me to hear. I can see that this is a position where you're filling in big shoes. I think our first meeting was just a couple of months before you got into this position. You were so welcoming and so humble, and it was so great talking to you. Even that brief conversation we had at AIPLA was great. And then when I got to know that you've taken that position, so I felt so proud that I know someone who is at this position now. And then the more I interacted with you, the more I saw you are such a nice human being as well. And right now, the way you are expressing how this was such a great moment for you, I think it tells me a lot how the personal journey would have been for you to get here.
Yeah.
Perfect. So next question is more on your childhood. What was your childhood like, and were there any early influences that shaped you in becoming who you are today?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I think oddly enough, I grew up in the town that is the birthplace of IBM, Endicott, New York. Grew up in an IBM town, lots of folks employed by IBM. Grew up had my parents and my brother and sister, who obviously had a very heavy influence on my life. We're a really close family. My mother's parents were immigrants from Italy. My dad's parents came from Italy and the Czech Republic. So their kids were, many of them grew up to be engineers, and so I was sort of surrounded by that, and just really smart. Grew up with really smart cousins that were all in the field, and electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and many of them were much older than me, and I always looked up to them. So all of them had a heavy influence on my life. Clearly, in addition to my parents, grew up in a very Catholic family that also had a very heavy influence on my life as well. But was always encouraged to try my best, to work hard, and I really had a great set of role models around me that I'm really fortunate in a very supportive family. So that clearly helped mold who I am today, and I'm just glad to have grown up in that environment.
It shows actually in your education and your professional path as well. Like Like I saw during your JD, you were in the top 1%, and during your Bachelor of Science at Penn State, you were in the Dean's List for several semesters. So this is all coming from your LinkedIn. Uh, but in your role with so many professional challenges that you deal with every day, and also having a personal life like anyone would have, like I handle these two things, just my family and just my work, and then I don't have energy to do a lot of things beyond that. But when you do all of these things, that like the volunteer activity that you're doing, how do you manage that? How do you balance your work and personal life? And how has this work influenced you as well? Being busy and being doing all these things, has that influenced? Is there other way around too? Like you do this and that you benefit out of it?
Yeah, it's a good question. My role has an impact on that because I've learned very quickly how to multitask because there are, there's certainly a lot going on. I'm also grateful that IBM gives me a good amount of flexibility, right? So I am able to work my schedule so that I can do volunteer events, so that I can be at my kids' activities for the most part. So I'm really fortunate for that. And I would be amiss if I didn't express thanks to my wife, because she's extraordinarily supportive person. I don't know that she knew what I don't think either of us really knew what we were getting into when I moved on to law school. We were newly married at that point, but she's been so supportive of my career, so helpful with our family life, and without her, I wouldn't be able to balance it. So most of the credit goes to her. She's fantastic.
Kudos to Mrs. Vallone. Now, when you advance in your career, so I'm trying to connect a couple of things. So your college life, your school life, and your family life. Uh, we realize that how your work and how the way you work with multitasking and the flexibility helps you do all these things, and your professional accomplishments are really like top notch. And I think not everyone, for anyone to let's say learn from this conversation and realize, okay, how you navigated everything and still got there. Are there any learnings or any let's say uh, inputs from your personal life that you think contributed in your professional life as well?
So inputs from my personal life that influence my professional life, is that what you're asking about?
Yes, 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 yes. So, influence from your personal environment, the way you live your life personally. I'll just rephrase the question again. So, my question is that since, like, the kind of accomplishments that you have professionally, they're not easy. They're not, you don't get there just by doing stuff that you're doing regularly. I mean, you have to be really good at what you're doing, and at the same time, you have your personal life where you're contributing so much. You're doing a lot of activities there. So, for someone who's listening to this conversation, or for even for me, or whoever wants to, let's say, have a good professional accomplishment while do all of this that they're doing, the activity they're doing beyond their work has to contribute to this growth somehow, and which I think it did in your case too. I just want to see if there's something you can pinpoint to, some learning or some activity, or you know something from your personal life that contributed to this growth. There's something coming from your school life and your life, your environment, while you were a kid. That's definitely a point which I'm getting here. But is there anything that you'd like to
Yeah,
add from that?
it's a good question, Anant. So it's funny. There's I can't say who this was originally attributed to, but I can tell you I heard this said by our former CEO at IBM, Ginny Rometty, a few times. She would talk about get comfortable being uncomfortable, and while I didn't hear that advice until later in life, you really reflect on it and say, there were a lot of times, either growing up or throughout my career, where um, growing gets uncomfortable. Getting in a new experience with more responsibility or taking on a new challenge can be uncomfortable, but it's how you adapt to that's what makes you grow, and what makes you take on greater responsibility, and what gives you that ability to multitask, and what gives you the ability take on those work-life balance challenges, and you can't be afraid of that. You can't be afraid of being uncomfortable, because it helps you grow as a person and have a growth mindset. When I first heard that, I said, well, why would I want to be uncomfortable? That doesn't sound like a good thing at all. But then when you think back on life and think about all of those instances where you did feel uncomfortable because something was new, and then how you pressed through it, I think we all have that ability, right? When you think about it, because everybody's gone through challenges in life. And when you put that into your professional role, it makes you want to take on those new challenges and say, okay, I can tackle that next challenge. And I know it's going to take some transition time, but I'll get there, and it'll go just fine. And you can't be afraid of that. And I'm still not afraid of that. I've been through it enough now. We get to that point where it's a nice challenge, and yes, it's uncomfortable. But you find a way to work through that. And I think it's a good lesson for anybody who's not just as a professional lesson, but as a life lesson, because you get those experiences on the personal side as well.
What does your typical day look like?
No 2 days are alike, Anant. But that's interesting. So it's days where, quite a few meetings, but I always try to make those meetings productive meetings, whether it's working, with my own team members or supporting clients. And in between, just trying to work on whatever is going on at the moment, whether it's in support of a client and getting a deliverable out, working on a policy matter, trying to be as responsive as I can to whoever is waiting for responses from me and things like that. But it is very busy, and but I try to make the most out of those times that I'm meeting with folks, because you tend to get a lot done when you meet, whether it's on a video conference, rather than trading a bunch of emails back and forth. And if I can come prepared and have these types of sessions be solutioning sessions, rather than having to tee it up in advance with, what are we going to talk about, try to set a clear agenda in advance so that we're problem solving, rather than setting up the problem and then trying to problem solve. Just make the best use out of that time, because you got days like this, you're going back to back all day long, and you need to make the best use of that time as you can. But I do enjoy it. It's, there's a lot of fast-paced changes, and but I always love, the time with clients and with team members.
There's one thing I also saw on your LinkedIn, which is you are a second degree black belt in Tang Soo Do.
Yes.
Am I pronouncing
yes,
it right? Tang Soo Do. Yeah. Wow. I'm saying wow because last year my son did Taekwondo, and just to encourage him, to keep him doing Taekwondo, I thought, okay, I'll join with you as well. And I started I joined, the classes, where some of the classes we were both together in those classes. And I quit in a few months. I got my orange belt, and then before I could even, be capable enough to get my next belt, I gave up. So getting a black belt, and that is secondary degree black belt. How do you manage that? When did you start? How did you do that? How's that journey?
I started back in 2015, and I really it started as more of just an outlet, right? Just something outside of work, something outside of kid activities. It was great, not just from a physical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint too, because martial arts is really both. And there's a flexible class schedule. So if kids had something going on one night, I could go another night. So it really sort of, at that time, fit the bill pretty well. So that's how I got into it. And then, sort of similar to your story, I started, and then my oldest son, who I think was 7 at that point, said, "Hey, can I do this too?" And I said, "Of course you can." And he ended up getting his first degree black belt. And then my youngest started, but like you, I think he got up to orange belt, said, "This isn't for me." I haven't been as active in it recently. I've been really, really busy with other things, but I do want to get back to it. And I do have a goal of getting my third degree and becoming an instructor at some point. I really do enjoy it. And it for me was a really great outlet, and I'm looking forward to getting back into it.
What does health mean for you? How do you define health in overall, in your overall, let's say, life areas? And then this is one area which I thought you like, doing martial arts is great. Is there anything else that you do or that you recommend?
Well, I'm fortunate to have an in-house dietitian. So my wife is a dietitian. So all of us are having a healthy diet, and I'm sure she'd like to see me exercising more than I do. But she really helps keep us all in check, and but for me, that's health is eating right and taking care of not just your physical self but your mental self as well, which was why I really got into martial arts. So you really have to take care of both, especially if you want to keep stamina in a busy role, right? So
Yeah, I think this is one learning I really need to take with me. If someone needs to perform at the level you do, it can't be just by word. You've got to keep yourself healthy, and diet and exercise all go hand in hand. Next question is more related to talking about your passions and hobbies and what you like spending time on. We've covered some of that, but if there's something that I've missed that you'd like to share, how you like spending time, what are the key hobbies that you have, and how have your hobbies changed, if you might want to share that, or you know with your career.
yeah, so how it's changed. So um I've had less time for martial arts, and I think a lot of that's because my hobby has really become, it's been a lot of travel, watching my kids compete in different things, whether it's sporting events or in other extracurricular activities. So spending a lot of time doing that, and that's been really fantastic to see them grow in their different activities. They're involved in cross country, track, swimming, um, uh, but other more academic based type of extracurricular activities as well, where there's various competitions, and it is great seeing them grow as people in those roles, doing well, not just in the classroom but on the field and in the community, and these other things. So I've been spending a lot of my time on that, and it's time well spent. So and then someday when we get that balance back, I'll get back into doing more martial arts again. But for the time being, it's been great to be a part of that with them.
You must feel proud when your kids participate in such competitive activities, and I think irrespective of the outcome, I think just the participation with one's full heart, that must give you a good feeling as a father.
Yeah, I probably embarrassed them because I am the loud parent cheering for them, and so yeah, you could say I'm definitely the proud dad, but it's great. I really thankful that they've found things that are interesting to them and that are engaging to them. That's what it's all about, and so yeah, my wife and I'm sure are their biggest fans. So.
Wow, that's awesome. So you said your kids are still in high school or middle school?
So
How
yeah, I have twins who are juniors in high school, boy and a girl, and I have a son who's
yeah,
12 and in middle school. So
got it. So what are you currently excited about or looking forward to in your personal and professional life? Like, this new role is one thing. This is great. What else excites you in your personal and professional life at this stage?
so on the professional side, um, we're just it's an exciting time to be in IP. I think every single um, IP conference at this point, I think you see that the predominant discussions are all around AI, right? And it is by far the
Yeah.
hot topic of the day. And so we have a lot of um, uh, adjustment to do with AI, challenges in AI, embracing AI, and navigating that whole landscape. And it is a really exciting time to be doing that. Really a game changer, and is only getting better. And so, I am really enjoying that on the professional side, and helping lead and work with colleagues through those changes, and how they affect IP practice, and how we protect those technologies for IBM, because we are a hybrid cloud and AI company. So not only are we looking at how we use AI, but how we protect AI technology. And so looking at it from both perspectives has been very challenging and very exciting at the same time. On the personal side, um, you know, again, I think, at this point it's been, um, I think it's not so much what I'm looking forward to. I'm just really kind of living in the moment. We're so, busy with things going on that, I sometimes you kind of have to stop and smell the roses. And I have to, say right now things. I enjoy seeing what where my kids are going, the things that my wife is doing, and just really been really happy for them, and certainly thinking about the promising futures they all have. But I'm really just enjoying the moment with them, and knowing that a couple more years before my oldest go off to college, and that's going to be a tough moment. But so trying to enjoy them now, and so I think that's been really important to me is enjoying this time while we've got them still here. So.
Where do you like to vacation?
Oh wow, we try to mix it up. So, but the last 2 years, we've gone to Colorado. I have a good amount of family out there, and I really enjoy it there. And just we love the outdoors. We love hiking. We like spending time with family, and that's just been a really great mix the last couple of years because we don't get to see them very often. So it will never be a hard sell to get me to go to Colorado.
And of course, work-wise, your work would take you, all these international places, conferences. Any specific place that you enjoyed the most, or that apart from Colorado, any other place that where your work takes you? Is there any place you'd like to go, or have already been on a personal front too, because you like that place a lot?
Well, most of my work travel has been in the U.S., but I always enjoy going to Washington. Like I said, that's where we first met, was outside of Washington.
Yes,
I've
yes.
even being there on a personal note, I've made it a point to take the patent attorney side trip to the National Inventors Hall of Fame. But I've always enjoyed being in Washington, meeting with our team members there, meeting with folks like yourself, and being in that area. It's just always a lot going on there. It's a good hub of IP activity, um, and so and it's that's one of my favorite destinations from a professional standpoint.
If there's something you would hope to achieve in the next few years, personally, professionally, what would that be? Like where you are right now, you said a few years back you would not have imagined being in this position, and now you're already here. So does that change your horizon, or widen your horizon, or your thought process with respect to where you want to be in the next few years? Or like you said, you want to take every day as it comes, live in the moment, and see where it goes, just keep doing your best? Or is there a North Star?
Well, certainly I feel like that right now from a family perspective. In my role though, there's a lot that I hope to accomplish, and um, but I think one of the most important things to me is, um, look, IBM was U.S. patent leader for 29 consecutive years, and everywhere I go, that's a lot of that's still a lot of the discussion, right? You have a huge patent portfolio, patent leadership, and as we've moved to a different strategy since then. The last couple of years, we haven't been number one. That was an intentional decision, and we've been really shifting to a really high quality focus. I would love to go to events like ones that we have been at and met at, where folks come up to me and say, um, you know, the IBM patent quality is really top notch, and and while it is, that's what I want us to be known for, and that's the message that I want to get out there and continue on that path where we are building, a really high quality patent portfolio, and we're already starting to see that resonate. Right, great example was the Sagacious AI report, where
Yes.
IBM was ranked first in generative AI patent strength. Right, really great sign that this strategy is taking hold. But that's the message that I want to take away. I want IBM to be known as the quality portfolio, not the quantity portfolio that was such a heavy focus. And while having a sizable portfolio is still really important to us, it is a shift in mindset from one that was out there for almost 30 years, right? And so that's a goal of mine, is to bring us synonymous with quality and not necessarily quantity.
Perfect. Is there a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self, on professional or personal front?
Yeah, to my younger self, I would say relax. um, no, that doesn't mean to lose that motivation that I had growing up by any means. But I tell my kids all the time, you don't get those years back, right? And enjoy the ride while you're there, and enjoy your friends and enjoy your activities, and don't worry so much about what the future holds. I was so focused on where was I going to go to school, what was I going to study, and sometimes you overlook the fun that's around you. And I hope my kids don't do that growing up, and I try to tell them not to. But yeah, relax and enjoy it, because you don't get those years again, right? And they go fast. They go fast. So.
And this is wonderful advice. This is wonderful advice. When you're talking about this, about being being worried about which school I'm going to go to, where am I going to study, and all that. I could see myself being in the same position like when I was that age. I just, those years are gone. Yeah, that's a great advice. Mark, we're getting into the last section, and after that, I'll end the questions. But if there's anything that you want to share or you want me to ask, I'll be happy to do that. So the next question is, what is your perspective about the future of IP industry in light of AI and all the other changes? You've shared a little bit. In fact, we've talked about it now, and in our previous conversations, we've talked about this thing as well. But if there's something you'd like to share about that, as an answer to this question, happy to have that.
Yeah. So, future of IP industry, and I mentioned earlier, AI is all the rage. It's the hot topic right now, and there's just so much discussion about that and the state of the technology and how it can help us, from an operational perspective, whether it's productivity or inventing, or just a lot of different applications, for AI. And we hear right now various input as to how helpful it is or is not. But I will tell you, it will only get better, right? And it's getting better very quickly, right? And so the IP landscape, I think, is really going to change in terms of how we operate, and traditional notions of, you need to take examples of how you prepare and prosecute patent applications, right? The assistants, and I stress the word assistants, right? The assistants will get better, right? I see, a world where it's drafting gold standard claims, not for the foreseeable future. Humans are always going to have to be involved, and we have to be involved responsibly in that, right? We have to be embracing AI in an honest and trustworthy and responsible way. Use it for ethical purposes. But I think we're all going to be in a point where we're using it in some form or another, because it's just going to have this, really tremendous benefit as an assistant. And so I think, that's going to be a big part of the future of the IP industry, is how we're deploying it and how we're using it, and hopefully all doing it in a responsible way.
What I got from your answer is that as AI keeps becoming better and better, and we've seen that happening in the last 1-2 years itself, the things, the tools and everything, the output of tools has changed dramatically. So at this stage, what does a tool or an AI solution from a third party need to be like for you to say, yeah, this is good, I can use it? I understand using AI within a company like IBM has its own, it's like opening a can of worms. It could be so many things that you need to address before you get something on board, something like that. But for IBM or for any company of that size, everyone is concerned about data security, inventions getting out, quality of work. But what would a solution need to be like for it to be, yes, this is good, let's try? In addition to this question is, let's say you try one thing for, let's say, searching or patent application drafting, but then there's so many different tools out there. So what would you, or would someone be in your shoes, would you be willing to spend so much time evaluating these different tools and for different activities? Would that be like a whole new job in itself, just evaluating these tools? Because there's so many of them. Every conference we go to, there are more than there were before, and
it is a lot to navigate, as you mentioned. So quite a few things on that. There are a lot of considerations on, what is a tool that could be, that we would feel comfortable with, or that practitioners in general should feel comfortable with, and that is going to be helpful. So certainly, if you're just looking at it from a patent perspective, and there's a whole ton of different perspectives you can look at it from, right? You always have to be concerned about confidentiality. You have to be concerned about what is happening with your data. You have to be worried about what kind of third-party data might be injected into your own patent work. You have to understand where the servers are located. Do I have a possible export issue? And then you have to look at, as you suggested earlier, the quality of the output, right? Is what's being outputted from generative AI, is it actually giving me a productivity boost, or is it a teardown and I'm kind of starting from the very beginning again? It has to give you some advancement rather than being a detractor, right? And I think you're right. There are different use cases where the current state of the art might be better suited for than others, right? So you mentioned, searching might be a good example of that. AI is getting better and better at being able to locate relevant references. Is it good at drafting patent applications? I think you're going to get a lot of varied input on that. So some use cases probably at this point better than others. But I think overall, what has to happen is, you've got to address all those legal aspects of it, and you have to be convinced that it's going to give you some kind of productivity boost. I think for us at IBM, one thing that helps with quite a bit of that is we have our own enterprise generative AI platform in Watson X, right? So we're certainly confident in that product and in its security and its protection of our data, and I think that's an advantage for us. Certainly we've been rolling that out with our own use cases across the company. So that's just not an IP statement, that's an IBM statement, and how we can use our own generative AI platform to help with different efforts across the company. And IBM's really great about making sure we're all getting our feet wet with our own product and learning how to use it and figuring out what are good use cases that'll benefit the company.
Okay. Mark, last question. What one advice would you want to give to an aspiring IP professional or an experienced IP professional who would like to grow their career like you have?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think the best advice I can give, there's no one great piece of career advice. So my advice would be more general, and it's really to follow your heart and your passions, because when you find something that is interesting to you, if you're anything like me, you get very engaged in it, and you want to do your best, so that you wake up every morning wanting to tackle that challenge and do your job. And that only happens when you find something that you're truly passionate about. So you have to make sure that you're working toward a path that interests you, because when you find that, that's your best chance at being successful, right? So that's my best advice is try a lot, find out what's your passion, and work toward that. And that, to me, is what's going to put you on a good path to try to get you where you want to go.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for being on this podcast and answering all these questions. Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate it.